I was a little bit worried when Andy said I get to introduce you. I thought, oh, be nice, please be nice. Because it's all right when you have the microphone after them, but then he's going to have the microphone again after me. And I just thought that was wonderful. So thank you, Andy. Um, this month, so it's Andy's 20th anniversary with Forever, and it's my 14th anniversary with Forever, which is really almost unbelievable because I can remember going to my first business presentation so clearly, so vividly, as if it was yesterday. You see, my background is very traditional business. I'm Canadian. I came to the UK 20 years ago to be with my husband, Jeff, who's English, and 14 and a half years ago we started a family. I've got two amazing boys who are 14 and a half and 11 and a half years old. And I was on maternity leave when my son was 6 months old. I didn't want to go back to work. I was really unhappy in my corporate job. So despite the great income and the perceived lifestyle it gave us, I knew I didn't want to be doing that for the rest of my career. And I was prepared to earn a lot less money if it meant I would have peace of mind. And a friend of mine who I hadn't known that long, I met her through Baby Group, introduced me to Forever. And to be honest, I didn't really expect myself to be getting involved. I almost went along to the business presentation just out of curiosity and really to support her. And I can remember being absolutely captivated by what I saw. I have to be honest, in fact, I'll always be honest. I didn't really understand all the circles and all those percentages, and you catch me on a bad day today, and I probably still have to think really clearly, which is a good thing. Your income still comes whether you understand the circles and the percentages or not. But what I saw was an opportunity that if it worked for me, maybe, just maybe, somebody like me, an ordinary person, could go on to live a truly extraordinary life. And I got started almost with a bit of hope and not really knowing what to expect. I was excited, I was full of enthusiasm, but my belief really wasn't anywhere near where probably it could have been. I wasn't very confident. I felt the corporate world had really taken a lot out of me. And if I compare where I am today to where I was 14 years ago, I don't recognize myself. I have a lifelong friend of mine who I grew up with. She is forever saying to me, how did this happen to you? People like us don't go on to live the kind of life you're living. And a key ingredient really has got to be goal setting, goal mapping, being clear about your vision. You can call it whatever you want. And you don't go to any business opportunity meeting, a Forever event, without somebody sometime mentioning, well, you need to know what you want. You have to be absolutely clear about the destination before you can set out on your journey. Otherwise, anywhere will do. And although in the first 8 months I was full of enthusiasm, I really didn't get very far on my business. I kind of faffed around a lot. And 8 months in, I thought I need to get really, really clear about what I wanted. And I knew that I wanted to just give my children a better opportunity or a better start in life than I ever had. And I started to think about, why do some people really go on to excel and others seem to be busy, 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 but absolutely standing still? Everybody sees that, don't you? We all see people flying through life, overachieving, and some people being super, super busy, and in some cases actually going backwards. And at the heart of that is clarity of vision and what you're prepared to work for. And I want to look at goal setting from a different perspective. I want to look at it from the perspective of, if you imagine you're at the end of your life and you're looking back, and ask yourself, how will you have measured your life? Or what regrets do you want to avoid having? How do you want to be remembered? The first time I came across goal mapping, goal setting, or having some idea of what you want to achieve in life was in my 20s. And a good friend of mine, or in my circle of friends, one of the guys named Brett, had just come back from yet another trip to Australia. And he was going on and on and on and on and on about having achieved his life ambition. I thought, how can you have a life ambition at 25? Life ambition because he had climbed Ayers Rock in Uluru. And it was such an important milestone. It was very spiritual. And he really encouraged all of us to sit down and write a life list. I'd never come across something called a life list because I'm sure, like most of us, we're not taught goal setting or life planning in school, are we? In fact, most people see goals as something you're given when you're in a job and you're given your targets to achieve. So most people actually, when they join Forever, have a negative connotation to the idea of setting a goal or a target because it's something which has been imposed upon you. So when Brett was talking about all of us sitting down to do a life list, I just thought he was bonkers. I thought there's no way someone like me is ever going to leave Canada, never mind travel around the world to Australia. But he was so insistent that all of this group of friends, we all sat down and wrote a life list. And mine had 127 things on it. And then that list went in a drawer for many, many years. And I'll tell you about that, and I'll show you that in just a second. Because his philosophy was, imagine you're at the end of your life, lying in a hospital bed, and you've got tubes coming in and out of everywhere. It's at that moment you start to think about, what have you achieved in your life? How will you be remembered? If you could do something over, what would you go back and do over? What risks would you take? And that has stayed with me all these years. So when I look at goal mapping, I still take that experience from all those years ago, from Brett saying, look at your life from the end, turn around, and ask yourself, what do you want to be remembered for? This book by Wayne Dyer is a beautiful book. I'm not sure that it's in print anymore, but I'm sure you can get it on an ebook or probably used on one of the online sites. It's an absolutely beautiful book and helped me to get clear about my core values. And that's something I'm very, very passionate about. I have built my business on really solid disciplines and traditional core values: integrity, trust, reliability, dependability, and I put those values first before profits. So it's a great book to get your hands on if you can. So when we look at achievers, there are 4 key ingredients: courage, vision, belief, action. And then I ask myself, yes, but will it be worth it? So I'm just going to take a few minutes to share my perspective on those ingredients. So let's look at courage. It takes real courage to dream a big dream. It takes real courage to break away from the norm and say, actually, no, I want something better for myself and my family. You know, because when you decide to pull away from what everybody else is doing and decide to beat your own drum, you have to be ready to be criticized. Listen, I don't know about you. My parents were immigrants. They immigrated to Canada after the Second World War and had a very traditional first-generation upbringing with immigrant parents who didn't speak the language, so they had very low-paid jobs. There wasn't a lot of much going around. And to suddenly say, no, I want something better, I was met with a lot of criticism and doubt. And I was told, in fact, my mom still says, you know, people like us don't do things like that. Anybody else heard that? Tell me who heard that growing up. People like us. And who do you think you are? You're getting above your stations. Anybody heard that one? You see, we're more alike than we are different. And I appreciate it takes courage to say, actually, no, I want a better life. And for me, when I started my family, I had no idea what I was going to do. But I was absolutely determined I was going to give them a better start than my parents were able to give us. You know, it takes courage to dream a big dream because you're going to be criticized, but it also takes courage because you will have some failures and disappointments along the way. And anybody ever suffer the humiliation or the sting of publicly announcing a big goal and then not achieving it? How crap does that feel? Yeah? Because you know the critics, they're just waiting, aren't they? They're just waiting to pounce on you and say, I told you so. What did you think you were trying to prove? Am I the only one? Who else has felt that pain? It's hard, and it takes courage not to fall back into your old patterns, into your old habits, and make do. It takes double the depth of courage to stand up and say, you know what, hell no, I'm not going to put up with where I am. I want something better. If we look at goals and what gives you the strength of courage, what is fuel to help you dig deeper? Because, you know, what I've learned is we're all capable of much, much more than we ever realize we are. We have deeper reservoirs of courage and drive and ambition, and we're capable of so much more. And what helped me to access that courage and strength and drive is understanding that you have to get to the why behind the what of the goal. And I've just given you some examples on the screen. You know, the what can be the holidays, the school fees, being debt-free, paying your credit card off, helping your family, whatever your what is. The why is the emotions behind it. You see, ultimately, our emotions drive our decisions and our behavior. And I want to share a personal story. Some of you have heard it before, and I've got some pictures I'm going to share with you a bit later. When I was in my early days of my corporate career, I flew out. I was in marketing. I flew out to Winnipeg, Manitoba, to meet a supplier. It was a privately owned company, and the owner's son collected me from the airport. And the owner's son was driving his dad's car, and it was an XJ12 Jaguar. It was I'd never been in a Jaguar before. And I know nothing about cars. I just knew it was posh and expensive. And it was dark forest green with tan leather interior, had a wooden steering wheel and wooden dashboard, and I was just absolutely wowed, floored. And I thought, wow, this must be what it's like to be successful. This is what it must be like to be rich. And I thought, you know, one day I'm going to have me one of these Jaguars. I had no idea how. You know, at that point in my life, I don't think I ever spent more than $500 on a car. They were wrecks. I always drove wrecks because that's all I could afford. So when I joined Forever, the idea of achieving car plan was pretty significant because that's how I could achieve that car. But the why was the feeling of success, achievement, financial freedom, no longer having to, I hate that B word, budget. I hate that. That word is not allowed in my house, and the words I cannot afford. I don't say those words either in my house anymore. And to go from my upbringing to that kind of lifestyle, I thought, wow, could you imagine what it would be like? And that was my why behind Car Plan, is I wanted to know what it felt like to not have to worry about money. There are 2 books I recommend here. Jim Rohn's 7 Strategies for Wealth and Happiness will help you to get clear about your priorities and your whys. And Brian Main's Goal Mapping is just one of my absolute, probably my favorite book, and the book that's had the most impact on me in my life, because it will teach you some great tools of how to stay focused on those priorities in your life. I saw the film We Bought a Zoo. Anybody seen this film, We Bought a Zoo? It's a phenomenal film. And there's a point in there with Benjamin Mee, the key character, says, you know, sometimes he's mentoring, giving his son some advice. And he says, you know, sometimes all you need is 20 seconds of insane courage. Just literally 20 seconds of just embarrassing bravery. And I promise you, something great will come of it. You know, I've worked with so many people, and people are so afraid to admit what they really want from this business because they're embarrassed. They think they may be judged, because for a lot of people, it's not the material things. It's the way they're going to feel. It's that they want to be successful. They want to know what it's like to be recognized for something that they've done off their own back. And it's a real turning point to help people have the courage to just admit to themselves what is really, really important, because it becomes like rocket fuel. After seeing that film is based on a true story of Dartmoor Zoological Park, and I thought, wouldn't it be great to go to that zoo? So we set that as a goal, and surprise, surprise, we went and we got to meet the real Benjamin Mee. You know, it is amazing what's possible if you follow some simple disciplines of goal setting. And vision is a second ingredient, and probably the biggest tool. It's going to help you achieve those big, big, big goals, real life-changing goals. And I can remember the first time I was encouraged to sit down and do a dream book. My gosh, Jeff and I, two corporate heads, said we haven't got time to cut and paste pictures. We're far too busy to do that. And it's all a bit airy-fairy and a bit American. And yet the proof was in the pudding, because Jane Leach was showing her vision boards and dream boards, and Adam May was showing his vision statements and his dream book. And I thought, well, if it works for them, what have I got to lose? And I went on to learn there's a whole science dedicated to the concept of vision boards and dream boards. And it activates your left brain, your right brain. It feeds your subconscious. It drives your behavior, your decision making. And so often I see people, they do a vision board and it sits in the bottom of a drawer. You know, we have vision walls in our houses today. Our kitchen wall is a whole vision wall. My office wall is a whole vision wall. My bedroom wall, my bathroom wall. In fact, we don't need to paint. We'll never need to paint, because there's so many pictures we've given up painting. And so vision, your vision, is what will be fuel for your goals. I wanted to show you some of the pictures from our very first dream book, the one we were resistant to put together because we didn't have time, we were too busy, and that's for those other kinds of people. I don't know who those other kinds of people, I thought who they were, but those other kinds of people. And here's just some of the things that we had to dig deep and find the courage to put in. And you can see so the bottom in the middle was a travel brochure to Australia. And on the left was my poster for car plan with my Jaguar that I wanted to have. Top left is a long road trip that Jeff wanted to do, and some other bits and pieces. Bottom right, education for my children. I have to tell you, when I first put that dream book together, did I really think I was ever going to go to Australia? No. I put it there because I had it on my life list. It's at this point I got my life list out. I did my first dream book based on all those 125 things that was in there. Did I really think one day we were going to have a 6-week road trip in the school holidays? Not really. But you know, something happens if you start the process, the belief begins to build, and you can take belief from people all around you. And if you struggle with belief, do you know what? There are so many people that can help you to build your belief, not just here in the UK or in forever, but right around the world. You just have to be open to learning from other people's experiences. And I have read loads and loads and loads of autobiographies, and they have been instrumental in helping me to build my belief and have steely courage to keep going in the face of adversity. You can learn so much. I've read biographies of people I like, people I don't like, people I don't even know who they are, of sports I know nothing about. You can learn something from everybody. You know, Ellen MacArthur, who sailed solo, I know nothing about sailing, get ready, the Vendée Globe. She sailed around the world by herself, plain English. And you read her book, and it is incredible. You know, she had to sail and deal with challenges as if her life depended on it. Do you know why? Because her life depended on it. And she recounts experience after experience of being on that boat, yacht, whatever it's called, boat. And I remember one particular disaster, the mast, something or other at the top of this mast broke, and if she wasn't able to fix it, the boat was going to turn over or something to that effect. And no, she openly admits she cried and sobbed and cried and sobbed and asked, why is this happening? How could I have avoided it? She said, but you know what? Through all the bloody tears, I still had to climb up that mast and fix it because otherwise the boat was going to turn over. And you know what I learned from that book? No matter what crap is coming your way, keep your feet moving. My goodness. We can get so bogged down in life's stuff. And Ellen MacArthur says, you cry and sob all you want. And I have. And there are Diana lakes everywhere. But you know what? Keep your feet moving. You know, Sharon Osbourne, her book Extreme. I'm not a particular fan of Sharon, but in Sharon's book, I learned to stop worrying about what everybody else is doing and stop worrying about what everybody else you think thinks of you. How much energy is wasted worrying about what everybody else is doing, looking left and looking right, and allowing that to undermine your own confidence. Stop knocking on the head. You know, Michael McIntyre, powerful book. Now, I do like him. And he talks about his journey and how many shows that his agent booked for him where they sold 0 seats. 0. Event after event, year after year, year after year, year after year. And he suddenly had an epiphany and said, you know what? I need to change my agent. If I don't change, nothing else is going to change. You know, we quite often, if our business hits a plateau or it's not growing at the speed we want it to grow, it's quite easy to put the blame on everything else, everybody else, instead of taking a responsibility and saying, actually, if it's going to be, it's up to me. And if I want to see change out there, the change first has to take place in here. And so, belief, you can build it from lots and lots of different sources. Of course, all the forever events, but I encourage you to take inspiration from outside forever and look at achievers across all different fields and industries, because you will find stories that resonate with you. And you will say, well, if they can overcome their obstacles, if Ellen MacArthur can cry and sob and climb up that mast, well, then I can put up with what I'm putting up with and keep my feet moving. Action is a fourth ingredient. You cannot just do a goal map or a dream board and then sit back and wait for the check to come in. I wish. And yet it's amazing the misunderstandings some people have around dream boards. So, action. You know, we're very blessed to have a mature business here in the UK. I mean, Forever. Forever is a mature business in the UK, and really everything is in place to help you. So I want to look at action from the angle of your own personal habits and behaviors. You cannot have $1 million lifestyle with minimum wage habits. You just can't. And you can try all you want, it's not going to happen. So it is about improving your skills, always wanting to become better, learn, embrace new tools, embrace new ideas. Listen, I've seen some dramatic changes in the tactics in how we build a business. The disciplines have not changed. The tactics will change as life and technology and society develops. So in the days of, when I first joined Forever, and I can't see Andy now, but we built our businesses using audio cassette tapes. Some people in the room were thinking, what's that? And it was a real thrill when we introduced a VHS video. And then, oh my gosh, a website. Flippin' A, a website. Do you know what? If we had stood still all those years ago, we wouldn't be the millionaires we are today. And so I know change is hard, and I know learning new things is hard, but you have to take action and take responsibility because the only person who's going to suffer is actually you. So the slight edge I recommend because it's about being open to continuous and never-ending learning. And I recommend Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective Networkers because I want you to put first things first. It will help you to develop a not to-do list. A not to-do list in my house for many, many years is we do not do any ironing. We've had a cleaner. My first goal as a supervisor was so I could have a cleaner. Well, today we have a housekeeper. We have a gardener. In fact, we have so many people, I don't know who we have. And I'm very proud to say our last vacuum cleaner we bought, I don't know how it switches on. So if I ever need to go and do a quick vacuum, I have to get the old one out. Yeah, if my mom hears that and she says, people like us should not be saying things like that. You see? In the face of adversity. So, it will help you to develop a not to-do list. Because we all have busy lives. And to get from where you are to where you want to be, something has to give. And success does not happen in a straight line. There are going to be disappointments. There are going to be some really big disappointments. And unless you're absolutely crystal clear about your why, your vision, why you're here, what's important to you, what your plan of action is, you will get knocked off course. You know, in my business some years ago, quite some years ago now, I had a really, really good friend of mine, joined my team, got to assistant manager, did a base month for manager of 56 case credits, and then just decided it wasn't for her. And I said, don't you think we should just do one more month and get you to manager? She said, no, I just don't want to do this anymore, and left. Do you know, 4 years ago, I had an amazing young woman working with me, got to manager in 4 months. Big team, 50 people. And do you know, after she went manager, within 6-8 weeks, her whole team and herself had disappeared. Do you know, still to this day, I have no idea what happened. I tried, and I was phoning, and I was chatting to them and asking, I don't understand. And you know what my husband said to me? You can spend another few weeks trying to figure out what happened, or you can get your feet moving and go and build some more managers. We stay at disappointment land too long, don't we? Sometimes you just don't know why things have happened, and just learn the lesson if you can and move on, because success does not happen in a straight line. When I think about, is it worth it? I can remember at different points early in my business dealing with disappointments and feeling really angry or really feeling hard done by, that I hadn't achieved some of the goals that I'd set, and it wasn't working, it wasn't going to plan. Don't you hate it when it doesn't go to plan and people don't do what they say they're going to do? And I thought, you know what, I've had enough of this business, it's just too bloody hard. And then the real realization hits that actually, I have no choice. I have to learn how to be good at this business. Do you know why? Because there ain't nothing else out there that's going to give you what this business can. That's what I call the piss of it. You have to just keep going. There just isn't. There isn't. So it's hard. It's not going to be a straight line. But I tell you, it's worth it. I have 29 seconds, so I'll be really quick. So, 14 years on, I'll share with you what our life is like today, and is it worth it? So if I take you back to that very first dream book, and my goal poster, you see the Jaguar I wanted was navy blue. It had to have that front grille. It had to have a wooden steering wheel, and it had to have a wooden dash and tan leather interior. And all my friends said, that's an old man's car. I said, no, that's a success and I'm rich car. Do you know, I got that within 2 years of working my forever business. And that's the real car on the big picture, and it was identical to the picture on my vision board. And I love that car. It just meant so much to me. I know nothing about cars. It just meant I was not going to have to live the life my parents lived. That just maybe I could give my children a better start. That maybe, just maybe, I could help my family in ways that my family didn't get help from their family when they needed it. It was a real threshold for me. Such an important threshold that I drove that car for years and years, and I was reluctant to trade it in. And then 3.5 years ago, doing 90 miles an hour on the outside lane of the M4, 10 o'clock at night, I hit a deer head on. And I totaled the car. I was fine. Luckily, the deer went under and not over. And I totaled the car. And it wasn't repairable because it was an old car. And you know, I was still reluctant to get rid of it. It sat on my drive for 3 years. Because it was such, what's the word I'm looking for? Such a symbol for where I had come from and where I was today. And you know, we buy our cars on a debit card today. It wasn't because of money, it was because of what it meant. And you see, do your whys mean that much to you? That it's just, you're reluctant to let things go because they're so important. I did finally let it go. We donated the car to charity. To a charity that provides clean water to villages in Africa. So that was the car being towed away finally last October. Finally, 3 years after it sat there, wrecked to pieces. So was it worth it? Yeah. Was it worth it, overcoming the challenges? You bet, yeah. These are my boys. These are my amazing, inspiring boys. Do you know, when I look at my kids today at 11 and 14 years old, and I compare them with where I was, or my brothers and my sister and I were at 11 and 14, it's a different world. And you know what? I did that. And listen, I didn't go to private school. I didn't know anything about private. I was more nervous about my boy. When my kids started private school, my husband said to me, "It's not them I'm worried about, it's you." He said, you're so nervous. So I don't fit in. I don't fit in with those kinds of people. He said, "You are those people." But you know, I was 22 when I first got on a plane. My kids have traveled the world. They're experienced travelers. I wanted that for them. They can walk into any room and meet any group of people and feel confident and comfortable in their own skin. That's what I wanted. And their education is helping them to each. They're at top private schools in Oxford. And they have amazing futures ahead of them. Forever has done that. Was it worth it? Yeah. That was when I went to Australia. I went to Uluru, Ayers Rock. I never, ever, ever, ever thought I would do that. I still can't believe I did that. And when I did that, I thought, bloody Nora, if I can do that, I can do anything. Anything. Forever did that. Was it worth it? Was it worth missing all the parties I missed? It was Jeff's birthday today. I haven't had a birthday with Jeff in 4 years because we always do the Blinking Manager Summit on Jeff's birthday. So was it worth it? Was it worth it missing his birthday? I missed a party last night. I missed a party last week, Friday night. Was it worth the sacrifices? You know, this trip, the 6-week road trip Jeff wanted to do, which went in our very first dream book. There's my son. He's just 6 months old in that picture. People like me don't have 6-week holidays. And 4 years ago, we did that. We took the summer off, and we did a road trip along south of France and North Spain. In the same year, we had a month in Australia. In the same year, we had a month in Canada. We were away 3.5 months. That's me. And my mom says, "Don't you think it's time you stay home? What is all this traveling?" Was it worth it? You know, my husband gave up his job 9 years ago. My kids don't know anything different than my husband being at home. And, you know, I always say that it takes time and a calm environment to instill your values in your children. To instill deep values and deep disciplines doesn't happen when you're racing around like headless chickens, being busy. And we have that gift of time. We have real time with our children. For many, many years now, we have a ritual where twice a year we each take a boy away on our own. So I will take one and we go somewhere, and Jeff will take the other one and they go somewhere. And then the second time in the year we crisscross. How many families have that privilege to have that one, take one child away at a time? You know, this year Jeff took, and we do things that are of interest to them. So at Easter, Jeff took my youngest to Normandy for 5 days. They're both into military history. I said to mother, son, do you want to go with him? He said, oh no, I'm staying with you. I said, yeah. But you take my other son to the WRC, the World Rally Racing. They go every year into Wales. They go in a few weeks' time. It takes time to instill values. And I know Jeff's not here, but because Forever have given us that time, I do feel he has the opportunity to be the best dad in the world. And I always say, I hope one day my kids will realize just how lucky they are to have that time. So, is it worth it? Enough about me. Do you know, I never expected to feel the way I feel about the impact I've had on the people around me. And the pride that I feel when top right, Paula, she's one of the managers in my group, who was working in a job she really, really hated. She hated, and she was so unhappy, and the stress that it was causing her, and how 2 years ago she was able to sack the boss. You know, I had a hand to play in that somehow. That feels good. When bottom left, Sam, that's one of my manager's son. He just started at the school of their dreams. And yeah, you know, Andrea has had years of being able to be at home to nurture and work with her child to get him in the school that's right for him. He's a talented bassoon player, of all things. You know, he's really going places. Forever has done that. Kay on the horse, you know, in her family, the pecking order is the horse, the children, and poor Jimmy, her husband, at the bottom. You know, this business has given her a chance to spend her time on a thing she's passionate about, and that's riding. You know, Vicky, when her daughter was diagnosed with diabetes 2 years ago, she could not work. She was at the hospital every other day. And do you know what? Her business has soared in the last 2 years because she's been able to build it all on her phone around her daughter. I had a hand to play in that. Damali, who's a little girl holding the red book, when we first did Chairman's Bonus 12 years ago, we had sponsored 2 children in Uganda and have done since then. And you know, she's starting high school. Wilson, the other boy, is starting a university. You know, if you can help one person at a time, Forever has done that. Has it been worth it? And I could have spent my time wondering where that manager leg disappeared to. I still don't know why. I don't know what happened there. I could have stayed stuck there, or I could have kept crying and moved my feet. So, the best thing I can say is to quote Burt Munro, and if you haven't seen this film, The Fastest Indian, I would recommend you do so because it's powerful. It shares a man's journey to achieve a lifelong ambition, which everybody thought he was a bit crazy, a bit of an old fool, old duddery, and the things he has to overcome to achieve it. And he's got a famous little quote, and when he does achieve it, and he says, you know, all my life I wanted to do something bigger and better than all the other jokers, and this is it. This is the place where big things happen, Bonneville. That's where he went to race his motorcycle. And when I watched that film, I thought, you know what, actually, what I say is all my life. And it's true, I did. Growing up, I didn't want to live the life my parents lived. It's not their fault, I just didn't want it. And all my life, I wanted to do something bigger and better than all the other jokers. And I say, this is it. This is the place where big things happen, and that's forever. And so I say to you, going away from today's, I would encourage you to go back and revisit your goals. Revisit the clarity of vision. You know, give yourself a courage check. Review your action plans, because with forever, everything is possible. Absolutely everything. And I'll be forever grateful to my sponsor and to the people who've helped me along the way. So with that, I'm going to pass you back to the amazing Mr. Andy. And I remember saying to Andy, will I ever get to $5,000 a month? And he said, oh, you will. And he said, you know, one day you'll be saying to me, will I ever get to $10,000 a month? And then when I got to $10,000 a month, he said to me, no, one day you'll be saying, will I ever get to $20,000 a month? Do you know what? Everything is possible. So thank you. Thank you, Andy.